Okay, everybody, last section for today is using sector area. So these are our problems that get just a little bit more complicated. So take a look at our picture. It says find the area of circle V, which means the whole thing, the blue and the red together. Now, what they gave you over here is they gave you the area of just the sector, okay? So the area of the red part is 35, and we need to use that to find the area of the whole circle. Okay, now I'm going to start with sector area equals the arc out of 360 times pi r squared. Now, I'm just going to start filling in what I know and go from there and see what I can figure out, because ultimately I want the total area of the circle. So the area of the sector, or the sector area that I'm given, okay, well I was given that that's 35, so I'm going to put that right there. Now, do we know the measure of the arc that corresponds with that 35? And the answer is yes. Well, that's 40. So I'm going to put that right there. 360 is already a number. Pi is already a number. So it looks like the only thing I'd really be missing is the radius, which, if I look at the picture, yeah, they didn't tell me the radius. That's a problem. They didn't tell me the diameter either. So let's fill in. The sector area we know is 35 equals the arc measure we know is 40 over 360 times pi 3.14 r squared. Now, if we can solve that and figure out what the radius of the circle is, that would be really, really helpful. Because if I know what the radius of the circle is, then I could plug it into the area of a circle, which is just pi r squared, and that would give me my answer. Okay, now, I'm not really sure how I told you how to solve these last time, but I think I'm going to kind of show you a different way. So this time, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to simplify this. So we're going to grab our calculators, and I'm just going to put that in my calculator. So 40 divided by 360, I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to multiply that by 3.14. So I'm going to keep the 35 equals, and then I'm going to take that, which I got 0.348, and then a whole bunch of 8s, and I'm going to keep a whole bunch of those because, just like before, you don't want to round your answer until the very, very, very end. If you're good with using a calculator, that's fantastic. If you're not, just keep all your decimals. And then r squared. Now, we're still trying to figure out what r is, and we've got this big long decimal times r squared. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to multiply both sides by that huge long decimal. Which is going to cancel it over here, which on this side is just going to leave me with r squared, which is fantastic. On the other side, 35 divided by 0.3488888, which is giving me 100.318471 a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, then I'm still trying to get that r by itself. It's r squared, opposite of square, square root. Square root's going to cancel the square. We're going to get an r, and then we're going to take the square root of 100.318471. I'm getting 10.0159-ish. So this one, if we round to the nearest tenth, the 1 tells you to leave the 0 alone, so your radius is just going to be 10.0, which means your radius is just going to be 10. Well, that's great, but let's go back up. Find the area of the circle. Well, we didn't find the area of the circle. We just found what the radius was. So on my circle, I know my radius is 10. Well, if I have a circle that has a radius of 10, how do you find the area of a circle? Well, the area of a circle, so circle area, is just pi r squared. That's what we did at the beginning of this lesson. So pi is 3.14, and my radius is 10, and I'm going to square that. So in my calculator, 3.14 times 10 squared gets me 314 meters squared is the area of the whole circle, and that is your final answer to this problem. Next one, find the area of the figure. Okay, I'm looking at the figure. I see two separate figures. We're going to cut them. So I'm going to cut it kind of like right here into a triangle and a circle. You can start with whichever one you want. I'm going to start with the circle. And this isn't really a circle. Do you notice it's a half a circle? That's actually called a semicircle. So I'm going to start with area of circle. Pi r squared. So the area of my circle is pi times the radius. Do we know the radius? No, we don't. We know this whole line is 7. Well, that whole line is not the radius, that's the diameter. So we need half of that. So if you take 7 divided by 2, that's going to get you 3.5, which is your radius. So 3.5 squared. So area of that circle, 3.14 times 3.5 squared is 38.465. Now, that's the area of a circle, and that's fantastic, but if you look at your picture, we don't have a whole circle. How much of a circle do we have? And the answer is we have half of it. So we don't want the whole area, we only want half of it. So take your answer, divide by 2, 19.2325. So area equals 19.2325, and I'm not going to round yet because that's not my final answer, meters squared. And then just put a star next to that and remember it. Because now we're going to go figure out this triangle. Okay, so take a look at your triangle. Area of triangle. So I gave you guys a formula sheet that you could print out. If you didn't print it out, that's fine, because if this were a quiz or a test or something like that, there's this thing called Google, and you can Google how to find the area of a triangle. What that's going to tell you is 1/2 base times height. So the area of my triangle is going to be 1/2 my base. Well, what's the base of your triangle? It's right here. 7. Times the height of your triangle. Well, where's that? Right here. 7. And then we're going to take our calculators. I'm going to do 1 divided by 2 times 7 times 7, which is going to give me, 24.5. Now, that's the area of the triangle. The 19 is the area of the semicircle. If we want to find the total area, we're going to add them together. So 19.2325 plus 24.5. So 19.2325 plus 24.5, 43.7325. And then we're going to round that to the nearest tenth. 3 tells you to leave the 7 alone. 43.7 meters squared. Okay guys, last but not least, a rectangular wall has an entrance cut into it. You want to paint the wall to the nearest square foot. What is the area of the region you need to paint? Okay, so just to be clear, this is the wall. That's the walkway. You don't want to paint the walkway. That's what you want to paint. Okay. So this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing, first of all, a rectangle. Okay, so look at your whole rectangle. And I'm thinking, oh, I could probably paint that whole rectangle. Or start with the whole rectangle. And then maybe like cut some out. So I could probably find the whole thing and then get rid of the door, because you don't want to paint the door because there's no wall there. Okay, so if I'm going to start with this whole rectangle that I have outlined in purple, how do you find the area of a rectangle? Base times height. Okay, so if I'm looking at my rectangle, my base down here, whole way across, is 36, times my height is the whole way up. Well, we have a 10, and we have, I colored over it, is that a 16? Yeah, we have a 16. So if we take 10 plus 16, that's going to give us 26. So times 26. So the area of the rectangle, 36 times 26, is 936. So that's the area of the entire wall. Now, we don't want to paint this part right here, which means we have to get rid of it, which means we're going to have to subtract it off. Now, in there, I kind of see two different shapes. I'm going to cut it right here. I see half of a circle, and I see a rectangle at the bottom. So I'm going to start with the rectangle at the bottom, which equals base times height. Well, the base, right here, I'm kind of outlining it. Oop, right there. 16. The height is right there. Do you notice that kind of goes over here? 16. So 16 times 16. 256. Okay, so that's the first part we don't want, but we also don't want this semicircle. Well, in the example we just did, we kind of did a circle, or a semicircle. So circle, or area of a circle, is pi r squared. So 3.14 times the radius. Well, the radius is from the center to the edge. Do we know the radius? And the answer is not really, but we can find it. If we know this whole bottom is 16, we're going to cut that in half, which is going to tell us the radius is 8. So 8 squared. Okay, 3.14 times 8 squared, and I'm getting 200.96. Now, that's the area of an entire circle. But if you look at that red part over there, is that the entire circle? And the answer is no, it's only half the circle. So we're going to take that answer, we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to get 100.48, which is the circle at the top. Now, let's recap. In the purple up here, we have the area of the entire wall, including the door. We don't want to paint the rectangle and the half of circle. We don't want to paint the door. So now we're going to take our 936, we're going to subtract the 256, we're going to subtract the 100.48. So 936 minus 256 minus 100.48, and I'm getting 579.52. Then I'm going to go back up here They said to the nearest square foot. Well, that's the same as saying the nearest whole number. So that's that guy. We're going to get rid of the decimal. So if we've got 52 cents, 52 cents is more than half of a dollar, which means we're going to round up. So we got to round up a 9, which really rounds up the 7. So 580 square feet is how much of that wall we're going to have to paint.